There is a reason these words have reached you today, and before your mind tells you to dismiss them as another passing message, stay here for a little longer because something unusual has already begun moving beneath the surface of your life. You may not see it yet, but every meaningful change begins long before it becomes visible. The next chapter of your story is not arriving with loud announcements or dramatic signs. It is approaching quietly, step by step, through moments that seem ordinary until you look back and realize they changed everything. Someone is entering your life whose world is completely different from anything you have imagined, yet whose heart has been searching for the same feeling you have been carrying for so long. This is not about money alone. It is not about luxury, expensive cars, private jets, or towering buildings. Those are only the visible pieces of a much deeper story. The real story begins with two lives that have been growing in completely different directions, only to discover that every lesson, every disappointment, every unanswered question was slowly preparing them for the exact same destination. While you have been wondering why certain doors refuse to open, another person has been asking why success has never been enough to make them feel complete. They have achieved goals that many people spend their entire lives chasing, yet every celebration has ended with the same quiet emptiness. Every victory has been followed by a silent question that no amount of wealth could answer. They have smiled for photographs while carrying conversations inside their heart that nobody else has ever heard. They have been surrounded by people yet secretly hoped someone would one day see beyond the image everyone admires. At the same time, you have been learning lessons that could never be bought with money. You have discovered patience through waiting, strength through disappointment, courage through uncertainty, and hope through moments when giving up seemed easier than believing again. Those lessons have shaped your heart into something rare, and without realizing it, you have become exactly the kind of person who can recognize genuine love instead of being distracted by appearances. This meeting is not being built on coincidence. It is being built on timing. Imagine two clocks moving at different speeds for years before suddenly striking the same hour. That is what is happening now. Small events that once seemed unrelated are beginning to connect in ways you cannot yet understand. A delayed plan, an unexpected invitation, a random conversation, a change in routine, or even a simple decision to go somewhere you almost avoided may soon become the moment that changes everything. You may think you are making an ordinary choice, but life often hides extraordinary moments inside ordinary days. The person approaching your path has spent years believing that finding someone sincere would become harder with every success they achieved. The higher they climbed, the more difficult it became to know who truly cared about them. They met people who admired their achievements but never understood their heart. They heard compliments that sounded beautiful but felt empty because they were directed toward their success instead of their soul. Deep inside, they began wishing for someone who would still choose them if every symbol of wealth disappeared overnight. That wish has quietly remained alive, even when they stopped speaking about it. Meanwhile, you have often questioned whether the kindness you carry still matters in a world that seems to reward appearances more than honesty. There were moments when you wondered if genuine hearts still exist, whether loyalty still has value, whether someone could truly appreciate you without asking you to become someone else first. Those questions were never signs of weakness. They were signs that your heart refused to settle for something temporary. The interesting part is that both of you have been asking different questions while searching for the same answer. One searched for sincerity. The other searched for security in love. Neither realized the answer was already moving toward them. The coming days may begin to feel slightly different. You may notice an unusual sense of anticipation without knowing why. Certain opportunities may appear unexpectedly. Someone may mention a place you have never considered visiting. A forgotten connection could suddenly return. A conversation that seems completely ordinary may introduce a name that stays in your thoughts longer than expected. Pay attention without forcing meaning into every little event. Sometimes life whispers before it speaks clearly. You do not need to chase every sign. You only need to remain open enough to recognize the right one when it arrives. Remember that true transformation rarely announces itself with certainty. It often begins with curiosity. The person entering your life may not look exactly as you imagined because reality has a remarkable way of exceeding expectations by refusing to follow our imagination. They may carry confidence without arrogance, ambition without cruelty, and success without losing compassion. What will surprise you most is not the life they have built but the peace you feel when speaking with them. For the first time in a long while, conversations may feel effortless. You will not need to pretend. You will not feel pressure to impress. Time itself may seem strangely different around them, moving faster during laughter and slower during meaningful silence. They will notice qualities in you that others overlooked because they were too busy chasing surface-level perfection. They will admire the way you think before you speak, the way you remain kind when nobody is watching, the way your strength has been shaped by experiences instead of pride. These are not qualities that can be purchased, inherited, or borrowed. They are earned through living honestly, and that is exactly why they will matter so much. There may still be moments when fear tries to interrupt this journey. Your past may remind you of disappointments. Doubt may quietly ask whether this happiness is truly meant for you. Resist the temptation to let yesterday make decisions about tomorrow. Every meaningful relationship requires the courage to believe that the future does not have to repeat the past. Sometimes the greatest risk is not trusting another person. Sometimes the greatest risk is refusing to trust yourself after everything you have already survived. You have grown more than you realize. The version of you who once accepted less is slowly disappearing, replaced by someone who understands their own value. That quiet confidence is becoming visible even if you cannot yet see it yourself. Others are beginning to notice the change before you do. Your energy has become calmer, your perspective wiser, and your heart stronger. Growth often happens so gradually that we only recognize it when life presents a situation we would have handled differently before. Soon, such a moment may arrive, and your response will reveal just how far you have come. The story unfolding ahead is not about becoming someone else's missing piece. It is about two complete individuals discovering that life becomes richer when shared with honesty, respect, and genuine affection. Wealth may provide comfort, but emotional safety creates a home. Success may open doors, but trust keeps them open. Admiration may begin a conversation, but authenticity allows it to continue. These truths will matter far more than anything that can be counted or measured. The greatest surprise waiting for you is not the lifestyle this person represents. It is the realization that everything you once believed was impossible may simply have been waiting for the right season to become real. When that season arrives, you will understand why certain chapters ended, why certain dreams were delayed, and why patience sometimes protects us from receiving the right blessing at the wrong time. Until then, keep moving forward with quiet confidence. Keep choosing kindness even when it feels unnoticed. Keep believing that genuine connections still exist, because every meaningful beginning first appears as an ordinary moment that almost everyone else would have ignored, and your next ordinary moment may be the one that quietly changes the entire direction of your life. As that unseen chapter continues to unfold, you may begin noticing that life is gently rearranging itself without asking for your permission. Certain routines that once felt permanent may suddenly change. Familiar places may no longer feel the same, while unexpected opportunities begin appearing in ways that seem almost impossible to predict. At first, these moments may appear disconnected, but with time you will realize they are quietly leading you towards someone whose journey has been unfolding alongside yours all along. This person has spent years building a life that others admire from a distance, yet there has always been one space that remained untouched by achievement. Every success they celebrated eventually faded into silence because there was no one beside them who truly understood the sacrifices hidden behind those victories. They learned how to negotiate million-dollar decisions, how to inspire teams, and how to solve impossible problems, but they never discovered how to silence the feeling that something important was still missing. That missing piece was never another accomplishment. It was the hope of meeting someone who valued their heart more than their status. While they searched for sincerity, you were unknowingly becoming the very kind of person they had almost stopped believing existed. Every difficult season you endured shaped your character in ways that cannot be purchased. Every disappointment taught you patience. Every unanswered prayer strengthened your resilience. Every lonely evening quietly transformed your expectations, teaching you that genuine love should never require pretending to be someone else. Those lessons became invisible treasures that you carry every single day, even if you rarely recognize their value yourself. Soon, those qualities may become impossible for the right person to ignore. There will be something about the way you speak, the way you listen, and the way you remain calm in moments that would overwhelm others that captures their attention more deeply than any appearance ever could. They will find themselves remembering small details about you without trying. A simple conversation may remain in their thoughts long after it ends. They may replay your words during quiet evenings, wondering why someone they barely know already feels strangely familiar. The answer will not come immediately because some connections cannot be explained through logic alone. They reveal themselves gradually, one meaningful moment at a time. Do not expect fireworks the very first day. The strongest relationships often begin with quiet comfort instead of overwhelming excitement. There may be laughter over ordinary conversations, unexpected honesty, and a growing sense that you never have to measure your words around this person. That feeling of emotional safety will become more valuable than any grand gesture because it is built on trust rather than illusion. As time moves forward, you may also notice how naturally your worlds begin fitting together. The differences between your backgrounds will not become barriers. Instead, they will become opportunities to learn from one another. You may introduce them to simple joys they had forgotten while chasing success, and they may encourage you to dream bigger than fear ever allowed. Neither of you will complete the other because both of you are already complete in your own ways. Instead, you will strengthen one another, proving that the healthiest relationships are partnerships built on mutual respect rather than dependence. There will still be moments when uncertainty whispers old fears into your heart. Memories from the past may try to convince you that happiness never lasts. You may wonder whether someone so successful could truly understand your experiences or appreciate your values. Yet every meaningful conversation will slowly answer those questions without needing dramatic promises. Their consistency will speak louder than impressive words. They will remember what matters to you. They will respect your boundaries. They will encourage your growth instead of fearing it. These quiet actions will reveal more about their character than any expensive gift ever could. In return, your sincerity will become the one thing they protect above everything else. They have spent years surrounded by people impressed by wealth, but your honesty will remind them of a life untouched by pretension. They will realize that genuine affection cannot be negotiated, purchased, or forced. It must be earned through trust, patience, and shared experiences. That realization may become one of the most valuable discoveries of their entire life. As the bond deepens, both of you will begin seeing how every delay, every unexpected detour, and every closed door in the past carried hidden purpose. The opportunities you missed made room for better ones. The people who walked away created space for those who truly belonged. Even the seasons that felt unfair quietly prepared your heart to recognize something real when it finally arrived. Looking back, you may realize that what once felt like rejection was often protection, guiding you away from temporary distractions so you could eventually recognize lasting happiness. The future will not be perfect because no meaningful relationship is free from challenges. There will be misunderstandings, moments requiring patience, and days when both of you must choose understanding instead of pride. Yet those moments will strengthen the relationship instead of breaking it because they will be met with honesty rather than avoidance. Together, you will discover that lasting love is not created by never facing difficulties. It is created by facing them together without losing respect for one another. One day, you may find yourself smiling at how naturally life transformed while you were busy simply living each day. The dreams that once seemed distant will become ordinary parts of your routine. The person you once believed could never exist will be sitting beside you, proving through everyday actions that genuine connection is far more extraordinary than any fantasy. And when you remember the uncertainty that once filled your heart, you will quietly understand that every chapter before this one was preparing you for a beginning that arrived exactly when you were finally ready to receive it. The days that follow may seem surprisingly ordinary on the surface, yet beneath that quiet routine, invisible changes will continue unfolding with remarkable precision. You may wake one morning with an unexplainable feeling that something important is approaching, even though nothing around you appears different. Trust that feeling without rushing to define it. Some of life's greatest turning points arrive long before they become visible. The person whose path is slowly moving toward yours is also beginning to notice subtle changes within their own life. Meetings that once felt essential suddenly lose their importance. Goals that once consumed every waking hour begin to feel incomplete. They may find themselves staring out of a window after another successful day, wondering why peace still seems just beyond reach. It will not be because they lack ambition. It will be because success has quietly taught them that achievement alone cannot replace genuine companionship. Somewhere deep inside, they have started wishing for someone who sees beyond their accomplishments, someone who values quiet conversations more than impressive titles, someone who reminds them what it feels like to simply be understood. While they search for that answer, your own journey continues shaping you in ways you have not fully recognized. Every challenge you overcame has strengthened your ability to remain calm when life becomes uncertain. Every disappointment has quietly refined your expectations, teaching you to recognize sincerity instead of empty promises. Those experiences have become your greatest strength, even if they once felt like your greatest burden. Soon, these qualities may become impossible for the right person to overlook. They will notice how naturally kindness flows through your actions without asking for recognition. They will admire your ability to remain grounded even when circumstances become difficult. Most importantly, they will feel something they have rarely experienced before, a sense of peace that cannot be explained through logic alone. Conversations between the two of you may begin with simple topics, yet each exchange will somehow reveal another layer of understanding. Hours may pass unnoticed because neither of you feels the need to impress the other. Silence will no longer feel uncomfortable. Instead, it will become another language through which trust quietly grows. There will be moments when both of you realize that the strongest connections are not built through dramatic declarations but through countless ordinary moments shared with honesty. A simple smile across the room, an unexpected message arriving at exactly the right time, or a thoughtful question that reveals genuine care may become far more meaningful than grand gestures ever could. As your connection deepens, you may begin noticing how naturally both of your lives start complementing each other. The differences that once seemed significant will slowly transform into strengths. Where one of you feels uncertain, the other offers confidence. Where one becomes overwhelmed, the other provides calm. Instead of competing, both of you will inspire one another to become even better versions of yourselves. This partnership will not ask either of you to abandon your individuality. Instead, it will celebrate the unique qualities that each person brings into the relationship. That is what makes genuine love so rare. It allows two separate journeys to continue while creating a shared future filled with mutual respect. There may still be moments when old fears quietly return. You may wonder whether such happiness can truly last. They may question whether someone could genuinely care for them without being influenced by their success. Those doubts will not disappear overnight, but each honest conversation will gradually replace fear with trust. Little by little, both of you will discover that consistency speaks louder than promises. Showing up during difficult moments will matter more than saying perfect words. Protecting each other's peace will become more valuable than winning arguments. Over time, your relationship will become a place where both of you feel safe enough to be completely yourselves. One evening, perhaps without even realizing it, both of you may reflect on the roads that brought you together. The disappointments that once felt unfair will suddenly make sense. The opportunities that disappeared will no longer feel like losses because they quietly redirected your lives towards something greater. Every unanswered question, every delayed dream, and every unexpected detour will reveal itself as part of a much larger picture that neither of you could have understood before. You will realize that timing was never working against you. It was patiently protecting the future from arriving before both hearts were truly prepared. From that moment forward, the idea of luck will begin to lose its meaning because you will understand that the most meaningful chapters of life are rarely accidental. They are built slowly through countless unseen moments of preparation. As new dreams begin taking shape together, they will no longer revolve around proving anything to the world. Instead, they will be rooted in creating a life filled with peace, purpose, laughter, and unwavering support. The wealth surrounding your future will become a blessing rather than the foundation of your happiness because both of you will understand that the greatest riches have always been trust, loyalty, and the quiet certainty that no matter what tomorrow brings, neither of you will have to face it alone. Looking back, you may smile at how close you came to doubting your own future during seasons that now seem so distant. Those difficult days will become reminders of how far you have traveled rather than reasons to fear what lies ahead. Every chapter that once appeared unfinished will finally connect, revealing that your story was never delayed. It was simply being written with extraordinary patience so that when the right person finally entered your life, both of you would recognize not only each other, but also the remarkable journey that made your meeting possible, and then, without warning, the pace of your story may begin to change in ways you never expected. The moments that once felt repetitive will suddenly carry a different kind of energy, as though life itself has started preparing the stage for something too important to happen by accident. You may notice that your confidence feels quieter but stronger. Instead of chasing validation, you will begin attracting respect naturally. Instead of forcing opportunities, the right ones will begin finding you. This shift is not random. It is the result of every lesson you have survived becoming part of your character. At the very same time, the person who has spent years building an extraordinary life may be standing in a room full of successful people, yet their attention drifts somewhere else entirely. They smile when expected, they shake hands, they celebrate another achievement, but deep inside, a single thought refuses to leave them alone. They are no longer asking how to earn more. They are asking who they can trust with the life they have built. Every answer they once believed in has started feeling incomplete because their heart has quietly reached a place where success is no longer enough. That silent realization becomes the beginning of everything. They may not know your name yet, but somehow they have already begun making room for someone exactly like you. Without realizing it, they have started saying no to people who bring confusion and yes to moments that bring peace. Those decisions seem ordinary today, but they are shaping a future where your paths can finally cross. Meanwhile, your own life continues moving through small but meaningful changes. You begin letting go of people who only appeared during your brightest moments but disappeared whenever life became difficult. You stop explaining your worth to those determined to misunderstand you. You become more protective of your peace, more intentional with your time, and more confident that genuine love should never require sacrificing your self-respect. These quiet choices become invisible signals that your heart is no longer available for temporary connections. It is preparing for something lasting. When your paths finally come close, the first impression may surprise both of you. There will be no overwhelming need to impress each other because authenticity will naturally replace performance. They will notice how comfortable they feel around you despite barely knowing you. You will notice that the stories you've heard about wealthy, powerful people do not seem to describe the person standing before you. Instead of arrogance, you may find humility. Instead of distance, you may discover genuine curiosity. They ask questions not because they have to, but because they sincerely want to understand the person behind your smile. Every answer you give quietly challenges assumptions they carried for years. They expected someone to admire their success, but instead they find someone interested in their dreams, their values, and the person they become when nobody else is watching. That realization stays with them long after the conversation ends. Days later, they remember the smallest details about you. The way you laughed without pretending. The way you listened without interrupting. The way you spoke honestly even when it would have been easier to say what others wanted to hear. Those moments begin replaying in their mind during meetings, while traveling, and during quiet evenings when everything around them becomes silent. They realize that the peace they felt around you is something no amount of wealth has ever been able to purchase. At the same time, you may catch yourself smiling for reasons you cannot fully explain. Not because of expensive gifts or grand promises, but because someone finally made you feel seen without asking you to become someone else first. The conversations begin growing deeper. What starts with ordinary topics slowly transforms into discussions about dreams, fears, family, purpose, and the future. There is no pressure to reveal everything at once because trust is growing naturally. Every shared story becomes another bridge connecting two lives that once seemed impossibly different. The more time passes, the more both of you begin understanding that the greatest luxury is not found in a mansion, a private jet, or a bank account. The greatest luxury is finding someone who makes your soul feel at home. That realization changes everything. The billionaire who once believed they had everything discovers there was one treasure missing all along. And you, who once questioned whether life would ever reward your patience, begin realizing that your greatest blessing was never delayed, it was simply being protected until the right moment arrived. There will still be voices trying to create doubt. Some people may question your intentions because of their success. Others may question theirs because of your ordinary background. But neither opinion will carry the same weight as the truth both of you experience every day. Trust built through honesty becomes stronger than rumors built through assumptions. Every challenge faced together strengthens the bond instead of weakening it because both of you choose communication over silence and understanding over pride. One evening, as the world grows quiet around you, there may come a moment when they look at you with complete sincerity and admit something they have never told anyone before. They may confess that before meeting you, they believed love always came with conditions. They thought every relationship required constant caution, endless doubt, and hidden expectations. But you changed that belief without even trying. You reminded them that the rarest people in this world cannot be recognized by what they own, but by the peace they bring into someone else's life. Hearing those words, you may finally understand why every delay, every heartbreak, every unanswered question, and every unexpected detour had to happen exactly as they did. If any chapter had unfolded differently, neither of you would have become the people capable of building the future now waiting ahead. From that day forward, your story will no longer be measured by the size of a fortune but by the depth of a connection that continues growing stronger with every sunrise. The world may see wealth, influence, and extraordinary success, but only the two of you will know the real miracle, that out of billions of people, two hearts traveled completely different roads only to discover that they had been moving toward each other from the very beginning, and once that truth becomes impossible to ignore, nothing will ever feel the same again because your greatest chapter is no longer approaching. It has finally begun now, as you stand at the edge of this extraordinary chapter. There is only one final truth left to understand. Everything that has happened until this moment has been preparing you for a life that once seemed impossible. The delays that frustrated you, the people who walked away without explanation, the opportunities that disappeared just when you thought they were meant for you, and even the nights when you questioned whether your future would ever change were never meaningless. They were shaping your heart with a kind of wisdom that could never be learned through comfort alone. Looking back, you will eventually realize that every disappointment quietly redirected your steps towards something greater than your imagination had ever been able to create. The person who is now becoming such an important part of your life will slowly begin sharing stories they have never trusted anyone else with. They will tell you about the loneliness hidden behind achievements that the world admired. They will confess how exhausting it became to wonder whether people loved them for who they were or for what they possessed. There were nights when they sat alone inside beautiful homes that echoed with silence instead of laughter. There were celebrations surrounded by countless people that somehow still felt empty. They reached milestones that millions dream about, yet every victory reminded them that success means very little if there is no one beside you who truly understands your heart. Those memories no longer fill them with sadness because now they finally understand why they had to wait. They were not waiting for perfection. They were waiting for someone whose character had been built through patience instead of privilege. That someone was you. Long before your paths crossed, life was quietly preparing both of you through completely different experiences that somehow led toward the same destination. While they learned that money cannot purchase peace, you learned that integrity cannot be replaced by appearances. While they discovered that admiration fades quickly without trust, you discovered that kindness remains valuable even when nobody applauds it. These lessons became the invisible bridge connecting your worlds long before either of you knew the other existed. As your relationship continues growing, the outside world may only notice the obvious things. They may see luxury, influence, and opportunity. They may assume your happiness comes from comfort, but they will never fully understand what truly transformed your life. The greatest change was never material. It was emotional. For the first time, both of you found someone before whom masks became unnecessary. Conversations no longer required careful planning. Silence no longer felt uncomfortable. Dreams became shared instead of private. Even difficult days began feeling lighter simply because neither of you carried them alone anymore. You may remember a moment when you once prayed quietly for a future that seemed too distant to believe in. Perhaps you never told anyone about those silent hopes because you feared disappointment. Perhaps you convinced yourself that expecting too much would only lead to more pain. Yet those forgotten prayers never truly disappeared. Life simply continued carrying them forward until the season was finally right. The answers arrived later than expected, but they arrived stronger than you imagined. That is often how meaningful blessings appear. They do not always come quickly, but when they do arrive, they reveal why every delay mattered. Together, both of you begin creating something neither of you had experienced before. It is not built on excitement alone because excitement rises and falls. It is built on daily choices. Choosing honesty when misunderstandings appear. choosing patience instead of anger, choosing encouragement instead of criticism, choosing gratitude instead of taking each other for granted. These ordinary decisions quietly become the extraordinary foundation of a relationship capable of lasting through every changing season of life. As months pass, you may notice another remarkable change. The dreams you once carried only for yourself begin expanding into dreams shared together. Conversations about tomorrow become conversations about years ahead. Plans become promises. Wishes become goals. Every achievement feels more meaningful because there is someone beside you celebrating not only your victories but also the effort that made those victories possible. Your happiness no longer depends upon perfect circumstances because it has found deeper roots inside mutual trust and unwavering respect. The billionaire who once measured success through numbers begins measuring it through peaceful mornings, heartfelt laughter, meaningful conversations, and the comfort of returning home knowing someone genuinely believes in them. At the same time, you begin understanding that your greatest strength was never luck. It was the decision to remain kind in a world that often rewarded shortcuts. It was the courage to keep believing in sincere love after disappointment tried convincing you otherwise. Those quiet choices shaped a future that no amount of wealth alone could have created. There will still be unexpected challenges because every meaningful life includes moments of uncertainty. Yet those challenges no longer feel frightening. They become opportunities to prove that the bond between both of you is stronger than temporary difficulties. Every obstacle faced together becomes another reminder that genuine love is not defined by perfect circumstances but by the willingness to remain united even when life becomes unpredictable. Looking back at the beginning of this journey, you may smile at the person you once were. You may remember the fear that whispered you would always be overlooked, the doubt that suggested happiness belonged only to other people, and the loneliness that convinced you nothing would ever truly change. Those voices slowly disappear because reality has answered them more powerfully than words ever could. Your story became proof that hope is never wasted when it is carried with patience. The chapter that once seemed impossible has quietly become your everyday life. And perhaps the most beautiful realization of all is this. The greatest gift was never finding someone with extraordinary success. The greatest gift was finding someone who remained extraordinary even after all their success, someone who chose humility over pride, gratitude over entitlement, and love over fear. In return, they discovered someone whose heart had never been defined by circumstances, someone who carried quiet strength through every season, someone who reminded them that the rarest treasures in this world cannot be bought because they are built through character. If these words leave you with one lasting thought, let it be this: never measure your future by your present circumstances. Some of the most remarkable chapters begin when everything still appears ordinary. Continue becoming the person you are meant to be. Continue protecting your peace. Continue choosing honesty even when shortcuts seem easier. Continue believing that meaningful connections still exist. The right opportunities, the right people, and the right season often arrive together when your heart is finally ready to recognize them. And when that day fully arrives, you will not remember the waiting with regret. You will remember it with gratitude, because every step, every lesson, every unanswered question, and every unexpected detour led you toward a future that was always worth waiting for. The story that once felt like a distant dream will become your reality, not because of chance, but because growth, timing, courage, and unwavering hope quietly worked together behind the scenes until the perfect moment finally arrived. And as you step forward into that new beginning, you will understand that the greatest miracle was never the wealth surrounding your future, it was the love, trust, peace, and purpose that finally found a home in your heart, completing a journey that had been unfolding long before you ever realized it had begun.